So with 8 years working as my family with clients in physical therapy, I have seen thousands of people with neck pain, back pain, and eyesight problem while working under computer screen. And this is nothing compared to 166 million people, especially student, office worker. So we have an optimal solution called My Your Neck. This is a software that will alarm people if they use their phone in wrong posture. And with every user, daily user, we will get $0.5 a day. So imagine that with our initial goal with 100,000 daily user, we will have about $50,000 a day. Yes, and although this is a potential project, but in order to push this forward, I come here to seek for your helpful advice to make this successful. Yes.
What burden on you?
You guys can actually chime in. What do you think? And then Tony can also chime in.
I'm more of a product-oriented person, so what does the app help the user? How does it help the user?
So normally when people don't realize that they have this symptom when they are young, then they recover very well. But when they are from 30 to 40, these symptoms begin to appear, and they have to spend a lot of money every year just to go to physical therapists. So our app will help to reduce that amount of money. Yes.
So by prevent it to happen?
Prevent it from happening.
So my question to you is, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, my question to you is, why are you not showing us your app? Why?
Because his phone's over there.
Because it's and you're saying that this is going to help people, office workers when they're looking at their computer screen, or let's say when their table height is not, high enough or low enough.
Yes.
Right? And this is an app that's on the cell phone?
Yes, on a cell phone.
On the cell phone, on the Apple and the Android.
Right now, we already have a prototype in Apple and iOS. We are still developing it on Android. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So, a couple of things straight away. One, and I think you said before that you actually developed this in a month.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool, and this largely comes back to this thing about execution. The other thing we actually look for is basically, are you addressing and solving a real problem? And so when you talk about anything to do with medicine and health and posture,
yes.
It is, I can completely buy that because it is a huge global issue. And interestingly, as you say, for particularly emerging economies and the developing world, the mobile phone usage rate goes up massively. So if you can do it more preventative and actually stop a lot of the issues, we know, again, in Australia and the Western world, you said with office workers, stress and tension headaches and stress related from poor posture and everything else.
Really hurt.
And the number of people that now get massages at their desk. We don't actually try and fix the problem, we just actually try and sort of mask the problem at the end, or actually, by giving massages. So, one, does it solve a real global issue? Yes. Do you actually have domain knowledge, which basically says, is this something that you can actually understand and relate to? And you gave the story about your family and their connection to the physical therapies, which is really cool. Have you demonstrated that you can actually execute? You said, look, we've got an MVP, minimum viable product, basically in the space of 1 month, and we've actually got it on the iPhone store. So that's kind of cool. If you genuinely believe that you can charge someone 0.5 of a dollar every day that they're using this, then I want it.
I already run a test. Yes.
Yeah. Because one of the challenges with apps basically is that they are so cheap now. And for a lot of stuff that basically a lot of people actually expect that many just straight up apps are basically going to be either free of charge. So whether you've got a freemium model, but so there's obviously more to this story. So I'm now just thinking through what are the missing pieces in my head that when you're pitching tomorrow, and I can tell by your face that you're saying, I've already got answers to all this.
Okay.
So
I got the idea.
You got an idea?
Yes, because our revenue mainly come from advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Google. Yeah, but I didn't tell that, did I?
Yeah, no, and again, it's a lot of people actually have their business model based on advertising streams. It's been proven time and time again to fail. So it's, and basically again, if you're an early adopter in that strategy and you got pay-per-click and pay-per-views and advertising all through Google AdWords and SEO and all those sorts of things, it used to be a very lucrative stream. But because every person that puts an app on basically says my business model is based on advertising, it's becoming harder and harder to actually make money out of that. There's some big players. In terms of with anything that's in the medical devices area, and this isn't classified as a medical device, but if you start looking at, okay, who actually stands to gain the most from it? So is it the actual user? Or in this case, is it the insurance companies that actually have to keep paying out under medical insurance and stress-related insurance and lost time at work? And so I'd be going to some of the big health providers and the insurance companies and basically turning and saying, do you want us to reduce your claims?
Okay.
And you actually do this. So this is where enterprise partnerships become particularly useful in the health space,
Yes.
because it's incredibly hard to break through on your own to get that brand out and to actually break in, particularly with health-related devices. But if you can actually get a serious corporate player on board that actually says, all right, well, yeah, I already have a database of 500,000 clients, and you know what? I'm actually going to distribute and market this product to them, because the better user adoption and take-up rate I have through my clients as an insurance broker or as a medical provider, then the less I pay out in claims.
It's fantastic. Well, let's leave some of your questions on the table.
Yes.
But let's move on to Take. How will you pitch your idea?
Okay. So, are you afraid of failure?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the emotion you have when you got home with an F on your paper. Because we are afraid of failure, so that's the reason why we are here. We try to learn, we try to improve our ideas so that we can prevent the failure. And every single one is afraid of failure. And so do businessmen in Vietnam. In Vietnamese, there's a saying goes, phi thương bất phú, which literally means if you want to be rich, do business. I don't know whether that's the reason why a lot of Vietnamese are doing business right now. When you go on the street, you can see a lot of vendor and a lot of street side business. But there are a lot of them have failed, and their failure will discourage the next generation. And my idea is to try to solve that problem, to make them more confident the way I try to solve it is to reduce the damage, make if you fail, and raise the chance that you will success. One of the biggest issues that associated with small business failure is the cost of the business, and mainly a large part of that cost is come from renting. It is especially true for some business, some service business like hair salon, skin care, tattooing, because if they want to hire a big houses on big street, it will cost them a lot of money, and it will take them very long before people believe in the talent of the tattooer, of the hairdresser.
You should wrap up in
Okay.
the next 10 seconds.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is that to reduce that cost, that will create a new type business. They will move to do their business somewhere else where the rent is much lower, like in an alleyway or in the apartment. And my platform is trying to connect the customers with the services.
Okay.
What do you think?
One, you need a lot more practice with the pitch, and it's incredibly tough, and it's always very hard to do the pitch. Picking up on Phoebe's point, is like you really got to get to the point of the story very quickly. One of the things that I started to pick up towards the end of it, and my first observation of actually coming into Saigon is basically, I find this expression, I'll use this expression, that basically you're either sleeping or you're selling. For exactly what you described. There are just little small businesses in every corner of every square inch of this city, and it's the same in Hanoi and pretty much throughout Vietnam. You have that culture. So what I hear you saying is you want to help all of those small business owners become more effective and reduce the risk of failure. I also hear that you've got a real estate play in there as well. So how do I reduce the rents? By actually sort of getting them to move into smaller spaces as well and reduce the rent on the overheads. So, all right, is it a real challenge? Yes, because much of the Vietnamese economy and the Southeast Asian economy from various countries that have traveled around still works on the same philosophy. There's a lot of very small businesses, micro businesses, that are basically waking up in the morning, they sell their product, whether it's a hairdressing salon, a tattoo parlor, or whatever else. They go to sleep and they wake up and do the whole thing the next morning. Is their business scalable? No. Very hard unless they actually build a brand, and it suddenly becomes we've now got 55 tattoo parlors or hairdressers around, and we've actually got a chain, so it's a franchise. So in terms of your motivation to actually want to help those small business people within Vietnam, I think it's great. And because that's also, I don't think it's an industry that's going to go away anytime soon. I think it's going to be a couple of generations before you see a substantial change. So is it a good cause? Yes. Do you need to work on your product, what your solution is? I think definitely. And you need to work on basically the business model. Because at the moment, all of these people are already struggling, as you say, in terms of how to actually pay their rent and keep their overheads down. So adding an extra component is like, okay, are you going to charge them out of the rent that you save if they're relocating? Are you now building a new model based on co-working spaces and shared facilities? Is it a marketing platform to build brand identity and awareness? So there's many bits to your story. So by the time you get to tomorrow night for your pitching, by the time you get to the pitching phase for this, you've got to get that story really clear and say, this is why I'm passionate about it. These are the people I want to help. In large cases, these are the forgotten people, because everyone wants to do tech startups and they're actually forgetting about the people who have actually been running these small businesses for the last 1,000 years. So there's a real heart story that can connect to Vietnam for that. But I would suggest you talk to a few people in terms of saying, right, how do I tighten this business case up? Actually, what my product is, what my offering is, because that needs a bit more work.
Would you say that right now Tank's product is trying to achieve a little bit too many goals at once?
Absolutely.
And should he maybe refine it down to maybe one or maximum two goals?
It's actually refined it down to one or two goals, but this also comes back to the previous comment about the number one reason for failure is poor product market fit. There's a lot of research that would need to be done to basically go and talk to these store owners and basically say, what would you need, what would help, and what would you prepare to pay for? And if it actually came out of a success fee or something. So when we do startup accelerators, the first thing we'll do on the first night is basically try and say, right, pitch your idea, get crazy, do whatever you need to do, get attention. Can you get people's ideas? Next morning, get out of the building and go and validate. So if you can't, by lunchtime, come back and actually demonstrate that I've just spoken to 100 people, 500 people, we've seen people do online surveys and get up to 1,000 bits of feedback and say, yes, that product's worthwhile, yes, I'd pay for it, then we just tell them to stop what they're doing right there and then. So pitching your idea and selling it is one thing, but the absolute critical thing is getting market validation. And I think the challenge for you right now is actually figuring out, is there actually a market? Your heart's in the right place, and it's a good cause. I think, you need to really figure out, is there a market for it? If so, what's the specific first step? As you said, what's the first goal?
That's great.
Cool.
That's great. Thank you. What about Tam? What is your pitch?
I pitched it earlier already.
Best for the last.
I'll try to squeeze in 30 seconds. So my project is a data analyst platform specifically for e-commerce. Through my years working with export companies, I see that they Vietnam brand, when they want to export to America, they want to sell with their own brands. They want to sell through Amazon or eBay or Shopify, all those big e-commerce sites. And with all those e-commerce sites, they will have a marketing tools, basically a data analytics tools to help them to find if it's a fit market for them to sell. So that's works for US. However, the rest of the world, every other country has their own local e-commerce site, which doesn't have those kind of analytics tools to support them. So mostly the sellers just blindly upload or sells their products and without knowing if their product is actually suitable for that channels or not. So my project is basically help the sellers to answer the questions is that is the brand, is the e-commerce, is that e-commerce site suitable for your product? Who is the audience or who is the target customer out there and how to reach to those target customers, because target customers on internet and physical is two different demographic. And this is a platform. That means that it's not only based on Google Analytics and we get the result and then we show them, but what we would actually help is that we allow e-commerce to integrate and import their data into our analytic tools as well. So that will help them to create their own seller supporting tools, and they can bring this back and to grow their own seller community stronger and better. Yes.
What do you think, Tony?
Does it exist yet?
No.
Okay. What stage are you up to?
What stage? Well, I'm thinking of validations. Well, validations, I've been talking to a few companies already, so I need to do more research, of course, but I think I have a good start. I would actually, the next step would be bootstrapping the product.
And do you have a technical background?
I do. I have a product development background. So so my family company, we do software for logistics. Basically, we do cost efficiency or data.
Okay. So are you a coder? Will you be doing the data analytics
No,
yourself?
I will be the architecture to build this infrastructure, and then I'll find somebody to do the coding.
Okay. I think we touched on this a little bit earlier as a broad general statement. This is, it's an interesting space. Data analytics and behavioral analysis and marketing is basically going to be the holy grail over the next 10 years. Because everyone is trying to do it. They know that the more we can actually unlock consumer behavior and actually get good product market fit, the better. So in terms of the market space you're heading into, is there a need for it? Yes. Is this an incredibly crowded market space? Yes. In terms of actually being competitors out there that are actually starting to look at this, and there's already some very big data houses and so forth. The reason I asked actually about whether you actually have the technical background, you're going to be doing the analytics yourself and everything else. This is, in many decisions we make, our first idea or our first company that we actually go out with typically doesn't end up being the one we stick with for the next 10, 20 years. And it's like, oh, I learned something from that, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change. Anybody that's actually doing anything in data analytics right now will have a good career ahead of them. If you can actually demonstrate capability to do that, because it's such a high demand area. The one differentiation you did mention, which I don't know enough about, was you sort of said, okay, this is how, the Googles and everything else are doing this in America and that works over there, but what happens for a lot of the Asian and other parts of the world?
Yes.
That would be the interesting part to actually have a look at in terms of the validation process, and I'd certainly look at that. I'd also do a very comprehensive competitor analysis. So whenever we actually look at people pitching, and it's like they turn around, normally the big things we actually shy away from, one is they say, oh, I've got this unique product. And you go, no, you don't. And there aren't any competitors. Yes, there are. And so when you actually start doing it and you put your pitch together, then it's very much about, all right, this is what I want to do. These are the people I know that are competing with me in this space. And trust me, there are, and there's lots of them.
Yes.
Both huge global mega companies, but also a lot of small ones. Because pretty much every marketing agency, every marketing company and university in the world right now is trying to do what you're doing.
But do you know why Amazon win as the biggest e-commerce site in the world?
Market penetration and the data.
well, data, but what they
Yeah.
do is that they have an ecosystem of
Absolutely.
analytics tools. So basically, what the tools help is to not only to find the product market fit, but they're
Yeah.
able to predict trend. They're able
Absolutely.
to predict inventory management, and they're able to predict cash flow. And all of these data because Amazon opened their API and their data
Correct.
to the other tools, which the other e-commerce sites are not doing. They're
And so this
picked
is part of the challenge. And how long did it take Amazon to get to that position?
more than 10 years.
So basically, this was a long-term play, and their strategy always was, and the same for Amazon and for Google, they said, we're actually just going to keep doing open source, and we're going to open our APIs, we're going to just basically collect the world's data, because we know in 10 years' time, it's going to be useful.
Yes.
And exactly as you said, they built an ecosystem, they built a database of human behavior that no one else on the planet has. And so for anyone to actually come in and try and compete in that is incredibly challenging.
Yes.
So, and you say, so the strategy is how do you build your own ecosystem? How do you actually get your own data source? So you actually got rich enough data samples to actually start making those
Yes.
sort of the decisions, exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
So it's just, so my only comment right now is it's a very challenging strategy.
Yes.
It's a long-term strategy. And going back to, I guess, some of the early pieces is what companies like Google and Amazon and that are all doing at the moment is buying very smart people and very smart algorithms.
Yes.
So if there's this play here that actually turns around and says, ooh, I've got a segment of the market that I understand that you don't, and you know what, I've got a really cool team of tech nerds that have actually built this little whiz-bang algorithm
Yeah.
that if we can plug this into your ecosystem, we can take your infrastructure and your architecture and we actually partner, do that.
Yes.
It's just a suggestion, but it's a bit like going to the insurance companies, whatever else. Sometimes playing with the big corporates is important. Sometimes disrupting them is important. If you're going to
That's
try and disrupt them, you need very, very deep pockets. And this is like the Ubers and the Grabs,
Yes.
who haven't made any profit yet, but have raised hundreds of millions of dollars purely to fight the legal battles.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony, for all of your advice. And I'm seeing a lot of different expressions here. You know, I'm seeing excitement. I'm seeing fear a little bit. I'm also seeing like, oh wow, I'm really enjoying this from Chris. But the mentorship session today is at its end, and so you guys should go back, prepare for your pitches, and even though Tony's not going to be available, you know, for your pitch, he's going to be able to watch you guys on YouTube and see how you perform. So are you ready for the pitch?
Yes.
All right. Tony, are you ready for them to pitch?
Yeah. I am ready to watch on YouTube, yes. It's super exciting. So all I want to say right now is congratulations. Well done for taking the initiative to start something, to actually say I want to make a difference in the world. Congratulations for sticking your hand up to be on Pitch, because the opportunity to do this is awesome, and to get feedback and to put yourself out there. And as you said, it is about stepping outside your comfort zone. It's facing your fears, the fear of failure and the fear of humiliation and everything else. But it's just like, get out there, go hard.
Yeah.
Give something a go, learn from it. So congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
So guys, don't go anywhere. The pitch section is coming right up next. And if you ever have questions about business and starting up and entrepreneurship, make sure you send them to us and we can have experts on our show answer them for you.